welcome to the... I am bad at doing intros.
Hi, guys!
Welcome to Cosplay Stitch and Seam. I'm V-Fire.
Ja, David! Or, thanks to our guest for today, translates to, and I'm David. Welcome back to Cosplay Stitch and Seam, you guys!
Woo!
Pannon had to take a sick day. You know, we only give so many of those out at the beginning of the year, so at least she's using them, you know.
Yeah.
It'll come out at the back of the end of the month of the paycheck, so, you know, whatever. So, while you're talking about paychecks and trying to get time off for like cons and
you're
stuff,
getting paid? Just kidding.
not anymore.
As a joke, like I'm not getting. I did that poorly. Go ahead. Go. Let's do this.
We're such a mess without Pannon, man.
We
are. If you want to support the show and tell us what you're working on, or tell us your horror stories when you're trying to get time off for all your favorite cons, where can they let us know about those, Mercedes?
They can do that through emailing us at cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com, or they can go to cosplaystitchandseam.com, and there's contact forms on there. We've gotten quite a few recently. I've been meaning to go through and sort through them, so thank you guys so much for reaching out. You can also reach out to us through...
You can reach out to us on the Facebook page. And while you're on the Facebook page, tell us what you're working on. We would love to hear it. Our community loves to see what you're working on, what you're building, what you're creating. And if you're not a big fan of the Facebook page, we do have a Discord. You can get our Discord link on our Facebook or also on our website. And we've got great communities where people want to see you grow, challenge yourselves. And we've got channels dedicated for podcasts, movies, TV shows, and also we have one just for our cosplay horror stories. And while you're on the internet, if you want to support the show, we have many different ways that you can do that. Tell a friend, leave us a review. We do have a Ko-fi account, KOFI, Cosplay Stitch, or a Patreon, patreon.com/Cosplay Stitch. For $3 a month, you get a shout out on the show every single episode. And for $5 a month, you get to join us on our monthly live streams for the Cosplay Chronicle.
Wah, 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 wah.
That is our D&D game where we get to play D&D with a cosplay twist with myself as the DM, Pannon, Mercedes, and our two ever returning guests, Jazzy and Dustin. And that is my spiel.
Oh, yeah. And then this is the part where Pannon talks about the amazing Fox Beauty cosmetics. You can go to their website, which you can find at foxbeauty.store. I am going to do a mild brag for his awesome makeup, which I was able to use with my Hyperlight Drifter cosplay at Anime Bonsai a few weeks ago.
Which was so good.
I am so happy with how the makeup turned out. I used the D&D eye color or eyeshadow palette to add, because I don't want to put the alcohol-based blue face paint on my eyes. That would be not fun. My eyes would turn different colors. So I used his the blue part of the palettes and the whites and like other things, and they just matched perfectly. And I loved it. And then I didn't see him there, and I couldn't show him in person, but I sent him pictures. So yay!
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, so, don't forget about discount, 10% off using the code Stitch and Seam.
So what are we talking about today, Mercedes?
We're talking about creating your own characters for cosplay, doing mashups, original designs, Gijinkas, all those fun things, because they are super important, super creative, and awesome. So we're talking about original characters, and our guest is...
XAngel Design. I'm back again.
Woo!
Oh, yeah!
Welcome back!
So tell us about yourself, XAngel, and your relationship with designing cool stuff.
So I have been involved in cosplay for more than a decade now, even though there's like some pauses. But before that, I was always intrigued with costume and set design. And so that's kind of where I started. And when I realized that I could, dress up outside of Halloween, I'm like, yes, sign me up. I bought tickets like the day I found out I didn't have to be restricted to Halloween or, apprentice to a theater. So I've done some schooling. I haven't finished anything, but I've done some schooling for technical theater and fashion design. And so I've taken a lot of the basics, and I've designed a lot of shows that have not been made, for lack of a better term. Like I've designed some looks for Shakespeare, I've designed some looks for one acts, I've designed characters for books that friends have written, and I do a lot of Gijinka designs.
So what is Gijinka? You say Gijinka. What does that mean exactly?
So it's when you take a non-human design and then you make it a human. So we have talked about Gijinkas specifically on a previous episode, so go back and listen. But to sub it up here, it's like if you want to be like Sharknado, you can make that into a dress or like a ball gown. Or if you want to be a Pokemon, you can like find a thing that you want to mash it up with. And
there was a
like
cool Sharknado dress, by the way, a few years back. I don't know who wore it, but it was amazing.
Yeah, I brought that up because I think it's easy to just Google and find.
Yes.
And so like I've got an Evolution flapper line. So all of the flapper dresses are different, but they are all Evolutions. And they all fit the 1920s style. Hey, David, you want to just pick out a Pokemon and I can break it down?
Gengar.
Ooh, okay. So there are a few ways that you could break down Gengar, but when you think of Gengar, what are the most eye-catching things?
The purple.
His ears. Purple.
And the big old grin.
And I think also its eyes, and it's spiked back.
Yeah.
So when you're designing a Gijinka of Gengar, you want to try and incorporate those things. Now, me, I like taking the eyes out unless they are like faux eyes, like on Arbok on the hood. I will keep those in, but not like the eyes from the face. So with Gengar, it would depend on what style I'm doing it in, if I'm going to keep the eyes or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I would definitely try and either incorporate the ears into like shoulder pads or like a crazy wig, and bring down the spikes down the spine, because I just think that's always a cool look. That's probably something I do. And you get the color palette right. And I also think that Gijinka Pokemon look better in a group. So find yourself a Hauntor and a Ghastly and put them all together.
Oh, that would be super dope.
But, when it all comes down to it, you're wearing clothes. You're wearing clothes that could be taken from your closet or just altered or are a very specific style that when you look at it from a silhouette, not seeing the colors, that it looks like clothing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So you take specific traits of something, personify it in some capacity, and make that, because I want to say that like Panin has famously done a Gijinka Raichu and has like lightning bolts all over it and keeps like with a color theme. Am I kind of getting it?
Yes, I love that one of Panin's because it looks like Sora dressed up as a Raichu. Because she's got like the big legs that are just kind of also the silhouette that Sora has in Kingdom Hearts. But also it's very distinct of, she's got the ear shapes of Raichu and the tail, and the big shorts actually help create the shape of Raichu's lower body.
I love that with doing things like this, you can pull from different inspirations. Like it can be like just clothes, and you're like, hey, I've got like a really cool like hoodie version of this character, which I did for my brother once with Assassin's Creed. But you can also take it to like a whole other level, being like, let's pull in Kingdom Hearts and like pull inspiration from that for the clothing design. It really takes like, I don't have like a huge fashion designer inside of me because I'm scared of them. But that takes that part of you that like likes fashion and wants to like figure out how to design clothing, and you get to challenge yourself with that, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love how freeing it is. I actually started doing Gijinka designs because I felt really hard to improv in character as a cosplayer. So I'm like, okay, next year I'm being a Pokemon, so I can just say the Pokemon name whenever I freeze.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much.
Oh, that's so cute.
And I'm actually going to be making a Togepi dress for my newest child because she's an infant, and I found like this really cute infant child dress, but I'm doing the top part in the Togepi cream color, and then the dress part is going to have applique in the different triangle shapes.
That's gonna be so cute.
That's so cool. I can't wait. I can't wait to see that.
Oh.
I have to get a space cleared so I can cut it.
The ever problem of having like sewing projects, cosplay projects with animals, children, anything along those lines. What a nightmare sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So did you see this Gijinka style before emulated and went, I want to do that? Or was there like an inspiration that you just had a moment of like, how do I get, I want to do a Flapper Girl costume. How do I do like Pokemon Flapper Girl? Well, can you like talk me through that process?
So I was going to go to a convention where they switch the theme every year.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the first year I went was J-pop, which is actually like really hard to see what the visuals of that is.
Mm-hmm.
But the next year was steampunk. And I'm like, okay, let me look up steampunk. And I think I can do a So I already had this of like, I'm going to be a Pokemon next year. They're doing this theme of steampunk. Now let me marry those two.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I got into it. And so then when I come across different like shows or plays or just movies that I really like, sometimes I get inspired to design. Like I helped work on a 1920s Midsummer Night's Dream.
Mm-hmm.
That was inspired by the newest Great Gatsby film. So I watched that and I'm like, oh, I need to do the evolutions. And that's how I did that, was that I was just like so in the zone of designing 1920s that I wanted to bring the evolutions, because with the 20s, you get the fringe, you get beading, you get lace designs. Like there's so many different like cool things with it that I thought it could reflect the different coats of the evolutions. Because it just always sticks out in my head that like Espeon has velvety fur and Glaceon is like sharp bits of ice that might be sandpaper if it wasn't melting when you touched it.
Mm.
So on that note, actually, like studying different time periods and the clothing styles, like what are your go-to like resources for that kind of thing?
So I actually have a few history books, and I keep like, if you want to gift me a reference book, just ask me if I have it first. Because I love having reference books and looking into it. So like with the 1920s, because I was also doing it for school, I had to research a lot. So there's a lot I don't remember where I found the information, but like the internet is a good place. But also I learned that fringe was really expensive and heavy to make in the 1920s.
Mm-hmm.
And that the quintessential image of like a flapper in fringe didn't happen until the 40s, because Hollywood has all of like this manufactured polyester stuff. And like, hey, this show's dancing really well. Let's put it on all of our flappers. Mm-hmm. And so the 40s movies of the 20s is actually what you typically think of when you think flapper instead of what the actual style is.
Ooh.
So one thing I like doing is actually looking for ads that happened around the time.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because, hey, you know what? Capitalism is forever until everyone's broke. And you can find those ads and they give you an idea of what shapes and styles were in there. So like if you're wanting to do like Agent Carter or like Captain America era, there are so many 50s ads that are inspired by the World War II fashions that you can mash up. And it's just it's almost when we started documenting a lot of ads and stuff. So there's a wealth of information there.
Interesting.
That's super cool.
I can geek out sometimes.
No, geek out. This is the time.
So one of the cosplay contests that I judged for, they had this group come on stage where they did Civil War Avengers, but like in Civil War dresses. And they based their clothing choices and designs based off of different time periods to make it look like, you know, Cap had been frozen for a while, so he wore kind of an older style dress, where Bucky was trying to blend in with modern kind of things, and Iron Man was like, I'm 20 years ahead of y'all and have a more modern dress.
Oh, I love it.
And they looked really cohesive. It was very beautiful. So one thing is, if you're doing like the historical stuff for your mashups or your designs, is there's a lot of reenactment or historical, like one of the subreddits I follow is historical costuming. And it's really cool because sometimes someone will post a picture and be like, hey, where is this from based on this dress or this suit? Or they'll post like resources of how to build things or like where to get patterns. And it's just, one of those things of like, oh, if I want to make like a Civil War costume mashed up with this Marvel character or this Pokemon, let me go to Civil War reenactment sites because they will have instructions on their quality standards for the costume.
Mm-hmm.
I love that because that, like, especially like the reenactment people, like they are so into that kind of thing, and you can get a wealth of knowledge that is excellent.
It can be intimidating, but it's really cool how much they've amassed.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, like, when you do something like this for competition, is the name of the game like how accurate can I get to this style, or is there and on the opposite end of the spectrum, how accurate can I get to the original character design? So like the Captain America Civil War era outfits, was it more, do we go more Civil War accurate dress pieces or more character accurate pieces? Is my question making sense?
It does make sense, and I'm sorry that there's no silver bullet for you because it depends on the contest.
Sure.
But I think the important thing is using a good reference photo so that the judges know what you're looking at.
Okay.
My very first contest I did was an original design take on Medusa of Greek legend, and that's where Mercedes met me.
Yep. I was like, that's where I met you.
But I ended up not finishing my complete look, so I didn't use my reference picture. And so I didn't have reference pictures for the judges to look at. So I had like this really cool costume, but they didn't have a reference to pull it from. So they couldn't say like, yes, you followed this, or no, you didn't. And like the same thing in a costuming class, I missed points because I didn't have my costume matching the picture I had drawn of my design matching my costume.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so with that, I think the important thing is making sure that you've built something that fits you well and is cleanly done, but also that you have a good reference photo for the judges to look at and being like, yes, this matches, because like a lot of people like doing the Hannah Alexander artwork. You might not think that that's considered an original or a Gijinka or whatever, but it is. It's just done by a professional artist who has done really clean work that is very identifiable and easy to match. But if you didn't have that reference, it becomes the question of like, what were you trying to do?
Yeah. Yeah. And when it comes down to like, when you're creating your own designs too, having those references of like, this was my goal. Did I meet that goal? Because cosplay contests, depending again on which ones you're going into, for the most part, they're craftsmanship based and trying to see if you met your end goal, and less of a look-alike kind of thing. So like with the Civil War Avengers and their gorgeous dresses, like the reason they chose what they did on each dress was based off of the character. They had this balance between, here's these, Civil War dresses that we can pull inspiration from, but also here's these characters. So like Cap's shield was a big ol' umbrella that she unfurled on stage and is beautifully done to the time period. And Iron Man had this beautiful jewelry all over her hands to represent the Iron Man armor. And even right down to their performance, where they reenacted the Civil War movie themes, the big fight at the end, with a historical Civil War dance.
Oh.
Yeah, it was really cool. And the point is like in their documentation, so like I as a judge, like I know about the Civil War. I live here in the US. Of course I know about it, right? You'd hope I did. But they put in their documentation like things that I could reference from and pull from. And if I needed to, I could even, pull up my phone and double check. Oh yes, they did get that time period correct. 'Cause I've got resources for that. I think I think I'm transitioning just a little bit here to another part of this topic, is that a lot of times when judges see an original character, a mashup or a Gijinka come in front of them, if they're used to, no, you got to just be screen accurate, they get a little, they fumble. And so I want to know what kind of advice. Yeah, they freeze up a little because like, what do I do with this? This is not what I'm expecting. I'm expecting to see you walk off of the screen, which is not always accurate for craftsmanship judging. So we'll start with you guys. What advice would you give a judge if they've never judged an original character? What should they look for?
So first off, hope for good documentation.
Okay.
And then I would go for the fit, how clean it is, how the finishes are. And I would really hope that they have a good reference photo. Like I was able to see someone's documentation where they had their mood board of all the things they wanted, but they didn't specify where it went on the costume. And I feel like having that cohesive thing is just a good aid for the judges, because then it's like, oh, they wanted scale mail here, so let me look for this scale mail here and see how well that scale mail is made, or how well they approximated that scale mail. Another thing, if it is like a mashup or an original character as a judge, I would look for originality and how well it fits in. Like, there's a TV show I followed where they were inspired to do a Tim Burton look, and someone just recreated a female version of the Mad Hatter. Don't do that unless it's supposed to be a gender bent Mad Hatter. Like, don't make your baker down the street look like the Mad Hatter, because they're not going to be dressing the same. They're a baker, not a hatter. So you'd want something that shows that you understand and respect the original source, but is its own distinct thing. Like, if you're doing a Jedi, for example, you can do plenty of Jedi from the movies, from Rebels, from Clone Wars, from the extended universe. But it's really easy to create a mediocre Jedi because you're just doing the base robes. It would be something like, as a judge, if you're doing a custom Jedi or a custom D&D character, I would look for what makes this character a cohesive character. Is there a symbol that's carried through from head to toe? Is there a color palette? Is there a favor of materials? Like, if it's a ranger, are they using mostly leathers for their armors? And not necessarily real leather, but things that look like leather.
Sure.
And if, again, going back to the Jedi, it's like, how clean did they finish these? Did they just buy a pre-made lightsaber hilt, or did they make it themselves? So just like the little things where it's like, you've got the basics, you know what it should look like, but as a judge, looking for the little things that would elevate it into being like, I can see this in a short.
Sure. So if we were to talk about, like, continuing on the competition side of things, if I were to walk on with my I don't know, my Star Wars mashup of some sort. I'm drawing a blank. I'm not clever on the spot, you guys.
If you're doing your Freddie Mercury Slave Leia mashup?
Yeah, exactly. And I was going to be doing like a skit or a walk-on or some sort. Like, what would it be? Something like, how could I aim to best represent those both on stage? Because I know that Mercedes had said, like, the Civil War era with the Captain America umbrella. Like, what is it that I, as the performer, would be wanting to, like, aim for?
I think if you're doing a mashup, you want to identify key moments for the characters. So I'm going to switch it from Freddie Mercury to like Ariel from Disney's Little Mermaid.
Okay.
Just because for me, that's easier for me to put on stage than Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
Like, I can't touch him. He's too good. But with Ariel as like Slave Leia, it would be very much like, if I had a partner doing Ursula as Jabba the Hutt, I would probably recreate when Jabba dies. Because I think that would be playing to both of them, both of the properties. But if it was just Ariel, I would probably lift or do parts of Part of Your World and maybe have her Dingle Hopper be a different Star Wars item.
Yeah.
And just having it be where if you've made something that is identifiably visually one thing, use your skit to bring out the other mashup.
Okay.
And like I've got one character that's an original character from Saint Seiya, Knights of the Zodiac.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still trying to figure out what sort of skit would work for her, but I do know like part of what people love about Saint Seiya is the cheesy fights. So I would set up a cheesy fight because even though my character is not it's an original character, but I need to make people think it is. I need to make people be like, I don't remember this character, or I should get into this anime, and then realize like, this character doesn't exist. That's when I've done a good job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. That sounds so we've got, if you're going for judging, make sure that you've got plenty of reference material of the two genres that you're trying to mash together. And then make sure that if you're going to be doing a skit or a walk-on, that you try and highlight the less visible aspects of the costume in a sense of like the theme, right? Like, so if you were to do, let's say like zombie, Walking Dead, and Marvel, right? I know that's already a thing in a sense, but like you might see that it's Captain America, but you may want to like try and in your walk-on, in your audio cues or something, try and give it that zombie sound effect or something like that. Does that sound about right? Or am I missing the point?
With that, either in the audio or the staging, like if you were going specifically like Michonne,
Mm-hmm.
you would want to make sure that you've got her two weapons. Like that would be a very important thing, and you'd want to showcase those weapons as part of that character, regardless of what the other mashup is, because that's what's going to make it identifiably that one character.
Okay. I love this idea so very much. I think that's one of the like areas for me as an early like fledgling cosplayer. The idea of mashing up an idea is new, and I've talked about the concept of Sailor Freddie Mercury. I recognize that's a mashup in and of itself.
Okay, but if you could do I Want to Break Free and have like Queen as Sailor Scouts, and you're just all jibing to I Want to Break Free,
or even the scene from the Bohemian Rhapsody music video where they're all in the shadows.
Yeah, and then you're using like the little glitter makeup wands as the flashlights.
Ooh, I love it. We've just pitched this, XAngel. We've just pitched this, and I love this idea.
Oh, good. I actually made a little list of like how to like design and make a cosplay from non-visual medium, like books and podcasts. I
that'd
made
be
a
great.
little bullet point list, so I could go through that.
I would love to know, like, especially for like visual, like non-visual cues, especially like podcasts, because I see a lot of people who do like the Adventure Zone characters, or I've seen a few people do characters from Night Vale. I think knowing that would be really awesome to have.
Okay, so I'll just go down and you can ask questions for clarifications, or we could I could go through the bullet lists and then we can have you grab a character.
Okay.
And go through them. All right. Number 1, pick a character.
Okay. Let's see. We'll go with the Magnus Archives. They just talked about their revival. So Jonathan Sims of the Magnus Archives.
Good choice.
I'm gonna rely on you guys for giving me this stuff because I have not listened to the Magnus Archives.
Okay.
So first, find your descriptions.
Ooh.
How do you describe this character?
Very shadowy, very, very in the microphone all the time. He doesn't give much of a description since, like, he's the main character oftentimes, so he doesn't get... So we kind of have an ambiguous masculine figure, sometimes with long hair, sometimes with short hair, and that's pretty much it as far as, like, physicality.
He's investigating stuff, though, so you could take in, like, the investigative nature, and he's an archivist, right?
Yeah, he is an archivist, he's a researcher.
Yeah, I remembered that right. Okay.
So I've got 3 and 4 are interchangeable depending on like how many references you got.
Okay.
So with your descriptions, you then either find your own references or you think about what informs the costume. So because it sounds like he isn't described a lot, I would start going into what informs the costume. Like, what's your character's job? Are they in a modern setting? Are they wearing jeans or slacks? do they sound like they have a certain color profile, or do they have abilities that they need to move in?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a uniform? Are they I have here in my notes, which Spice Girl do they channel? Like, if they're because it's like, okay, if they most identify with Ginger Spice, they're a patriot, and they're gonna like have that on display. If they're Baby Spice, it's gonna be cutesy stuff. The Scary Spice is the bold prints and styles, like they're not afraid to be themselves. Posh Spice, they hold themselves very proper, and their clothing is gonna help with that.
Oh, they
And then-
are definitely Posh Spice.
Oh, yeah.
and then Sporty Spice is the athletic. And I think those 5 are actually a really good way to like break down of like, okay, I can use that as kind of a way to start building further.
That's fantastic. Okay, so we've got
so we've got this posh archivist that does he have to run around as he's putting stuff away, or
no,
normally
he's
no.
Always, yeah, he's normally tucked away in a library, reciting spooky stories for archiving later.
Ooh, so he might. So I'm now thinking kind of Giles from Buffy.
Yeah, that's
where
a good image.
He's got like that like tweed jacket with like the leather patches on the elbows.
Mm-hmm. Okay, love it.
And again, a tailored shirt that fits him, because he needs to be comfortable, but he needs to look presentable. I would even like consider like, how would he tie his tie? If he's a hard Posh Spice, it's probably going to be a double Windsor. But if he's like a scaled back Posh Spice, and like the tie is something that he just puts on every time, it'll probably be like a single Windsor or a single knot.
I think it like evolves from the double to the single depending on where you're at in the story.
Fair. Yeah.
and that could be a fun progression of through the day where you're just like loosening and like retying it, and the tie just looks more disheveled as the day goes on.
That's so good. That's so good.
So when you've considered like what informs the character, what descriptions, how they talk, how like what Spice Girl they emulate, that's when you start breaking down your costume to fit it. And that's after you've broken it down, you can put it together.
Ooh,
Oh
a
my
prop,
gosh.
he'd have a cassette recorder.
Yeah, a physical tape recorder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then he would probably also have a satchel to put that in when he's not using it.
Oh my gosh. That's
You're a genius.
Oh my. Like you are painting a clearer picture than they ever did in the podcast itself.
Ooh, that makes me happy. Again, I love this creating of characters. Like it's a problem sometimes.
No, this is
like
fantastic.
Well, like I have like 3 different characters I pulled to like walk through my steps as well.
Okay.
There is a series called Cradle by Will White, and there's a character named Akura Mercy, and she is bubbly, she is vibrant, but she's from a family that are like, well, the matriarch is Malice.
Oh,
Like her family is named for like by specific traits that they want, that they hope, that they like, let's put this hope into you, so that's what you bring to our family. So Akora Mercy, daughter of Malice, you get to play around with that, but like trying to break her down, it was more of like breaking down the power profile and the color profiles, because in this book series, you can tell what clans people belong to based on their colors and their symbols. So you can pull that symbol and toss it on.
Oh, very cool.
And I did not write down what the Akura clan was. I have a different clan, what theirs is, but I do have that it's black and purple. And in this series, they also have this thing called gold signs, where it shows how that they've reached this mark of basically martial arts mastery, and they've bonded with something. So her gold sign is, she looks like she's wearing shadows on her arms.
What is this series and where can I read it? This sounds great.
It's Cradle. You can get it off of Amazon, but it's honestly like the best audiobook series I've listened to. And like one of the characters, I'm like, this is David. I can't explain it, but this audio narrator is not actually doing this. They somehow got David to do this voice.
I will have to check that out for sure then.
Sweet.
And it's a progressive fantasy, so it's like a JRPG where first task is collect fruit, and last task is
Defeat God.
Yep. Not quite there yet myself, but they're really close to the ending there.
Mm-hmm.
But they've done like this great thing of like, so you've got like Mercy versus a different character, Ethan.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mercy, she's from a royal family, but she doesn't like flaunting it. So her stuff will be in good condition, but it won't be embroidered to heck.
Mm-hmm.
There's a different character, Ethan, who he is known for how pretty he likes to dress. So if you do Ethan, you're going to want to put in all the embroidery that you can and as many layers as you can of like fine silks and stuff. Whereas a different character, she is very to the point and blunt, and she's like, I don't need new clothes. It doesn't matter that I've had this robe for 8 years and is tattered.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. I'm covered. I'm good. And so like just those juxtaposition of those three characters helps give you an idea of like, oh, so if I'm doing Ethan, I need to add all of these things like embroidery and beading and making sure that the wig is really well styled.
Mm.
Whereas Mercy, it's like, this is simple. She wants to be able to fight and move in this, but let's not forget that cool gold sign of like the shadowy gloves. And then you have Yaren, who's just like, yeah, this looks like it ran through an Indiana Jones set, and then I wore it.
I love it. That sounds so cool.
But another thing is like the power set. The Akura clan can manifest armor.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I listened to it, I imagined European armor because that's where my bias is.
Mm-hmm.
And then rereading, I'm like, oh no, this is samurai armor because this is all Eastern inspired.
Oh, okay.
But the way that this armor is, it's called a construct,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of like the Green Lantern constructs, where it's kind of see-through.
You're speaking my language. Go on.
So it's just like, if I ever make a Kora Mercy, I'd be making samurai armor out of resin so it could be see-through and you could see the costume underneath.
And it has that like hueish color like the Green Lanterns. Oh, I love it so much. It's
and
so
it would be
cool.
purple and black because those are the colors.
Oh, that's so cool. I love this idea. So that's the kind of the mashups of it all, right? Like there's a lot to really like allow your imagination to go with, and it like when you said mashups, I immediately went to like Harry Potter meets Doctor Who or something along those lines, you know. But this is like way more just beyond like, oh yeah, I want to bring these two worlds together. It's how do I like bring a proper homage to it all? Does that sound fair?
How do I take this and ground it so it is believable?
Ooh, hell yeah.
Like that's kind of my approach when I make a costume is how do I take this and make it believable?
I love it. I
Beautiful.
love that so much. Well, as we wrap up here, XAngel, where can people find you?
You can I have been dead on my social media because I had a kid in April. Once I return to work, I'm going to try and be better about updating. So on Facebook, you can find me at XAngel Design and Cosplay. And on Instagram, you can find me at xangel.design. And my profile picture is like a compass rose with an X over it.
And also, XAngel is fantastic about being active in the Discord community. I can always rely on them to have some really great insight or talk about some of the experiences they've had. So go make sure that you check out XAngel. And
if I haven't done it, I know someone who has.
I love it. I love it. So with all of that said, Mercedes, where if they we should do something that we haven't done in a very long time. We should do
horror stories. Do you want to pull one from the Discord? Or wait, Alex, do you have one?
Horror stories, spooky.
I have several. Do we want to do Carrot or Artemis?
Let's do Carrot.
Okay, yes. So Carrot I did for Anime Bonsai 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I had bad luck trying to get the ears. I've shared stories about that.
Mm-hmm.
The day of the competition, I am getting ready and my makeup is not going on. I have terrible luck where if I put makeup on my arms, it does not seal.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried using an airbrush to help, and it wasn't. So I called up Mercedes and Sadie to ask if they could help. So I ended up doing a mishmash of airbrushing and makeup. And then I'm like half done, and I realize I have 2 left shoes.
Uh-oh.
I don't have the shoes I need to be on stage that I know I can kick in because, Carrot's a gymnastic character. She jumps and kicks and stuff. So I called my husband and he brings it up. I was able to get my judging moved so that my makeup could be fully applied. And, things went really well. And I had done like so many jump tests to make sure that my ears would stay on. And then I am ready to go on stage. I have not been able to hug anyone because I am just shedding white makeup. And I go on stage and I lean down slightly to pick up my prop box and the ear falls off.
Oh no!
I remember this. And
I'm just
hard.
like, please let this be the only time it falls off. So I put it back on. I don't have time to get my hat on, which might have held the ears on, but I just did not have time. They were starting my music. So get the ear back on and I go back out on stage and I go to do it and the ear falls off again.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, the show must go on. I need to hit my cues. So I'm hitting my cues and it falls off like 2 more times. And in my head, I'm just like, yep, this is what's happening. And and then I had like talked with one of the MCs about leaving a prop on stage. And it was just like, I almost completely forgot about making that funny because my ear had just kept falling off.
Oh my goodness.
It was just kind of like, I had done bunny hops and kicks with those ears on the night before, no problems. And the ear just like popped off. So just in the course of the one day for this contest, my makeup was not sealing. It was not sticking. It was not applying. I did not have the right shoes. I had to push back my judging. I thought everything was fine. And then the ear fell off.
Oh.
I remember this story.
And one of the judges, I respected him a lot. And then I respected him even more after I attended like some of his panels and events that he had done. And I get into prejudging. And here's the thing about One Piece. There's a lot of episodes. I don't expect people to be familiar with One Piece, let alone where I am. So I get in there, and this judge that I am respecting and slightly terrified of because he does amazing work, he's like, oh, I loved this arc.
Oh, whoa!
When you hear this from a judge about One Piece, it's like, oh no.
They know.
They know One Piece. I can't get away with this not being good. And it turns out he's actually designed costumes for some of the One Piece films.
Whoa, that's amazing.
That was like a level of terror I didn't need. That I got. That I ended up getting after I performed. And I actually got his Judge's Choice Award because of how I had pushed through and hit all my lines and kept going, even though the ear kept falling off. So it's just like kind of mortifying, but at the same, and I still have problems with that ear. Sometimes it will just not stay on. So if I'm dressed as Carrot, I'm usually like not bending down to grab anything because I don't want to put an ear back on.
No, I remember that. This was the year that I competed as well, and I remember sitting in the green room and just watching you like continue on. You grab it, you make it seem like it's not that big of a deal. It's such a good moment. Like we were all just cheering for you. You did such a great job.
Oh, that's
Seriously.
amazing to hear. Like I tend to not get nervous about my performances until after I perform. And so let's just say there was a lot for me to be concerned about after I performed.
You did great. You should be so proud of that performance. Well, if you, dear listener, want to tell us your horror story, go and make sure that you go and send us your horror story at our email, cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com.
Or you can go to the Facebook page. Oh my gosh, wow, I did that wrong. Or you can go to the website, cosplaystitchandseam.com, and fill out our contact forms there, or
go to the Facebook page. Tell us your horror stories there with our fantastic community. We would love to hear them. We would love to see them. Also, tell us what you're working on. What's your work in progress Wednesdays? What's your finished Fridays? What's your throwback Thursdays? We would love to see everything you're doing. I gotta throw a quick shout out to Zenith Cosplay. I think it's Zenith, who is constantly on top of the work in progress Wednesdays and the finish Fridays. They are so fantastic in getting the community up and going. Thanks so much for being so awesome. We love to see it.
Yes, I love seeing those posts so much. I'm just like, oh, hey, thank you.
Yeah. And if you're not a big fan of Facebook, we totally get it. We do have a Discord server. It is absolutely free to join. No steps that you have to do other than just go to the website, click on the link, and join our Discord server. We've got a whole channel just for horror stories right there. And while you're on the internet, and if you want to support the show, you can always leave us a review wherever they let you. Anytime that you do something along those lines, that really helps us out. It helps the algorithms look happily upon us. And of course, tell a friend. Just tell somebody that you're a big fan of this
tell
podcast.
random people at cons.
Yeah, just look them in the eye. Do not blink and say, yes, I am listening to a podcast. You need to listen to this podcast. Or just say, cosplay stitch and seam. Very, very quietly, but enough for them to go, what? What are you talking about? Because that isn't creepy at all. And that is kind of hilarious.
Or you just put it out there and you magically summon one of the hosts.
I mean, if you say my name enough times in the Discord server, I will arrive there and just be like, yes, hello.
At the last con we were at, I was recommending this podcast to someone, and then all of a sudden David was there.
That's right. I do remember that. Yeah. And of course, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/cosplay stitch. Some of the amazing people that we need to thank are Tim Yoke, Wanderboy Cosplay, Trough Cos, Lydia, Rose Does, Yggdrasil, Dr. Steggy, PB and James, Cynics, Hot Riku, Renamira, Jazzy Kofed, Jaguar Quinn, Gloria Shu, Sudi, Shock H, and Silver Deeds.
Woo!
Thank you guys
We made
for
it to the
being
end.
so awesome. We really appreciate you guys. So that's it. That's our episode. Normally, this is where Pannon has a really creative and fun pun about mashups, and I've just kind of been racking my brain, so I don't have anything really great, but I am thinking about my own mashup. One of my two favorite films, one is Moulin Rouge, where it's just this fantastical mashup of music on screen with what we know and what we love. And then I also think about like one of my childhood favorite cartoons, Mulan. So maybe a Mulan.
I like that.
All right. Good night, guys.
Good enough.
Bye.